All right, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. On behalf of all of us at the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute, I'd like to welcome all of you to today's unique and exciting Product Solutions webinar. My name is Ann Wolter, Executive Director, and I'm joined today by a bevy of special presenters, whom you'll get to know in just a moment. These monthly presentations feature our very own RMMI member experts on the products and practices you need to know to design and build successfully with masonry. Today's webinar is about innovation and partnership, two terms we don't hear nearly enough in the masonry industry, right? In this case, we're honored to showcase an equipment manufacturer, a block producer, and a Colorado masonry contractor who are working together to transform the way masonry is laid, faster, safer, more cost-effectively. The goal? To be dramatically more competitive and reclaim work that's been lost to other building materials. Now, I want all of you to be able to view this webinar at its best, so do me a favor and go right now to the top right-hand corner of your Zoom screen and click View. Got it? Then, if it isn't already checked, select Side-by-Side Gallery so you can see our panelists as well as the presentation slides and videos. If you have any questions or comments as we go along, be sure to click on the chat box at the bottom of your screen to type them in. And here's an important note. If possible, also let us know which panelist your question is for. Everyone will do their best to answer your questions in turn, or if necessary, at the end of the presentation. And last but not least, you're always welcome to call or email us at the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute with your questions regarding this presentation or any other aspect of masonry design and construction. Our members and team of technical advisors are here to make it easier for you to work with brick, block, and stone. Now, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our moderator of today's discussion, Umbereen Mustafa, who will introduce our speakers and get this show on the road. Take it away, Umbereen.
Thank you so much, Anne. I appreciate that introduction, and I am very excited to be here today and to be part of such an important conversation with these three industry leaders. My name, as Anne said, is Umbereen Mustafa. I am with Brandtatorship, which is a marketing agency, and we work on branding and other business growth initiatives. So the panelists today have a lot of information to share with you about innovations that will change the future of masonry and construction. The goal of the next 55 minutes is to learn, to share, and to collaborate. As Anne stated, please feel free to send in questions throughout the presentation. And it's actually not going to be a presentation. It's going to be more roundtable format. We've organized the information under 4 topics. Each topic will be addressed by all of the 3 panelists, and we will be addressing your questions section by section. While they give their answers, we will be playing a video in the background, some fun footage that we took to give you a sneak peek into how these innovations are working in the real world. I would like to start with introductions and ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, their companies, and give a very brief insight into why this topic is important to them. And we will start with Scott.
Thanks, Umbereen. Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk about what we consider to be a very exciting opportunity for change in the industry. So a little bit about myself. I am CEO and one of the co-founders of Construction Robotics. And my background was really in the manufacturing industry. So I was a chemical engineer by training, but spent a lot of years in the early days of my career with companies like Intel, General Motors, with process engineering, manufacturing engineering, optimizing how to be efficient in a manufacturing environment. And as my career progressed and had got more and more into robotics and automation and bringing advanced technology in the industry, was able to turn my attention and partner to bring construction robotics to life. So a little bit about construction robotics. We've been around since 2007, the early days, and in the beginning, our vision was really about bringing robotics automation into the construction industry. And I would say our vision, our focus is still the same, but it's really, I think it has evolved a little bit because our focus is about increasing profitability, improving safety, and reducing injuries on job sites. And that's the mission that we live in, and the products that we develop are focused around that. So we have developed, we are the developer of SAM, semi-automated mason, robotic brick lane system, and then also the developer of the Mule, which is what we'll really talk about today and focus on. And the Mule is used across the U.S. and also around the world now. And as we'll get into, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Mule Material Unit Lift Enhancer, it is a smart lift piece of equipment that really does the heavy lifting for you and allows you to carry up to 150 pounds weightlessly. It's great for applications where you're moving heavy materials, back and forth and installing them, in place on a construction site. It's really designed for and built for the construction site. So, excited to be here today. Again, excited to have the opportunity, and we're at a really fun stage within construction robotics, growing, adding dealers, adding partners around the country, and seeing very strong growth in products that are revolutionizing masonry, such as 32-inch block, which we'll talk more about.
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess it is. I'm Todd Berich with Berich Masonry and the owner of Berich Masonry Incorporated at Berich Masonry Mountain Division. We cover both mountain division sectors, commercial and residential up there, and commercial along the Front Range here in Denver. A fourth generation mason contractor, so it's kind of in our blood, you could say. We are just so excited to be part of this movement. And the reason that we got involved in this thing is I really feel like we have an obligation to better our industry and leave it in a better position than where we were at when we came in. And we have a couple of contributors to do this, obviously, construction robotics and Basalite with a 32-inch block. And we're just so excited to be the ones to bring this thing to the market. So that's why we got involved in this thing. That's why we're part of this presentation today. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jacob Wipf with Basalite. I'm the masonry sales manager for the Colorado region. Many of you may or may not know me. I know most of you probably do, but I've been with Basalite for 17 years. Lead the team on the masonry side within the Colorado region. Basalite as a whole is very excited about this process to be able to bring something new, a new opportunity to the market, new opportunities coming from our new facility in Fort Lupton. Basalite's been around a long time, as many people know. We're very, very proud of what we get to do. Very proud to be teamed up with construction robotics and Berich Masonry to bring this out to the market and hopefully regain some of that market share that we've seen go to cross-laminated wood, tilt-up, precast, things of that nature in this market is stuff that we're really excited about to share with you today, that hopefully we can get the community of our tight-knit masonry community to go out and promote these things the way that we feel passionate about them equally out in the market. Basalite is, so here's a little bit on us, but I think most of you, for the majority on the call, know who we are. If you haven't had a chance to get up to our new facility in Fort Lupton, where we're making these 8x8x32 block, I really encourage you to come up, check it out, reach out to your individual sales reps or myself, and we'll get you up to the plant and let you take a look at what we're doing firsthand at the new state-of-the-art facility.
Thank you, Jacob and Todd and Scott. Appreciate those introductions. So the first topic that we'd like to cover is related to challenges that you face in the industry. And I'm sure each of you participants has your very own experience that is somewhat unique, but I'm sure there are a few things that might pull all of you together into a few categories of what might be at the top of your list of concerns and or opportunities. So with that, I will turn over to Todd.
Thank you, Emery. I see several challenges in our industry.
Perhaps the biggest one is enticing and retaining youth in our industry. It's a big deal, and let's face it, it's tough work, but it's also really rewarding work. And I've been a benefactor of that. I've been a bricklayer myself, and so I know how rewarding it is. The second thing, in which this really, in my mind, could be a co-owner to being number one, is losing market share. I can't tell you how many jobs that we budgeted over the years, and we had elevator and stair cores and shafts on the inside of the building, and then we also had the skin. And when the bid documents come out, the interior cores are gone. They've gone to other products, cast in place, tilt up, not very often, but occasionally, and shaft wall. And so we're losing market share. And I think that's just primary one of our major issues in the industry. The other is workers' comp. It's not a huge deal, but I tell you what, when you have a back or a shoulder claim, it can really be catastrophic to your team members, your individual injured, and your company as well. And so I think that's a key point. And really the last thing, which we've seen more of a trend in the design and the engineering side of things, is a much more conservative approach to engineering. I can count the number of jobs, 5 or 6 in the last 2 years, that we've seen rebar laps increase to absolutely ridiculous points. 5'4", 6'8", and we even had one that we bid last year at 7'4" lap. And these things just make it very challenging for us to do our job.
Thank you, Todd. Scott?
Yeah, I think Todd covered it really well. Obviously, he's living and breathing it every day, and so knows these challenges firsthand. But I think we see this across the country as we work with our mason contracting partners and our dealers. I think that the industry is facing labor challenges. Trying to find and retain talent. There's not too many contractors we go to that aren't constantly hiring and looking for people and looking to hire them. And then as you bring in this new generation of workers, how do you keep them engaged, right? How do you make them feel engaged and welcoming to masonry, which can be it's a very physically demanding trade. And when you're out there installing heavy materials every day, it's backbreaking work, and people have seen what that's done to their grandfathers, their fathers, and how it breaks down the body. And so, those are very real life examples that people see. And so I think that is really a challenge: is how do we attract people, how do we retain them, and how do we make sure that it's not only rewarding because of the satisfaction you get of the being a mason out there working with your hands every day and installing it, but also in a way that's safe and can extend your career. So that's really one of the big ones that I know we hear a lot about. I think Todd hit on a lot of the other points really well. The other one that I would bring up from a challenge in the industry is change and resistance to change. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I think as an industry, construction itself, it's a high risk industry, right? There's risk every single day that you're taking out there when you're bidding the jobs and putting your people to work. And so it's hard to change. It's hard to adopt new materials and new methods. And so that I think creates challenges, but it also is an opportunity. And so, we'll talk a little bit more about that today, but that's one of the things that we see out there as well.
I would add, I think Todd and Scott, you've done a good job kind of outlining, the big challenges that we see. I think one other last thing I would add is, we want to do what we can in the industry to stay relevant. And we'll talk a little bit later on about some other options with these lineal blocks, other options that the Mule can come into play with keeping up with design demands and design trends in order to keep us relevant on the wall and throughout the project.
Perfect. Great insights. Appreciate all of that. Kim, any questions or comments right out of the gates?
No questions or comments. Just a reminder, everybody, to put those in the chat box. Let us know who they're for, and we'll go ahead and ask them.
Thanks. Okay, so the second topic is about solutions, and we are here, of course, to educate you. So I'd like to pose this question to the panelists. And based on what little I know, there is going to be some significant opportunity for change in this industry. So Scott, would you like to get started with potentially addressing any of these opportunities or innovations?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for passing it over. So, the first one I guess what I'll dig into, and there's a lot of ways to look at solutions here. And I know, Jacob and Todd will talk about some as well, but what we'll talk about is the Mule, right? So, the Mule material unit lift enhancer, for those who haven't seen it or had an opportunity to work with it, it's a manual smart lift assist device. And what that means is that it's designed to work alongside the mason, allow them to have their hands on the block. It senses as you pick a block and as you move it up and down, it senses that the weight of the block and the force you're applying, so that it makes that block feel weightless. And the big advantage there is that obviously it reduces the strain on the body. It reduces any risk of injury for the mason. But it also allows them to work with the block naturally, the way they normally would, just without the weight and the strain, especially as they lift that heavy block over rebar. So whether you're lifting a 32-inch block or a 12-inch block, or even a veneer stone, and placing that, you don't have to carry the weight. You can focus on the mortaring, striking, the quality, the setting, the land of the line, and really making sure that you're achieving a high level of productivity safely and efficiently on that job site. So it's also designed to be very flexible on a job site. Be set up in multiple situations. It can be freestanding on the ground. It can set on mast climbers, such as hydromobile or other scaffold systems, and is really designed to be a tool for the mason. And there's lots of different ways that the teams learn to work with a piece of equipment, and they cover a lot of that through training and implementation. But we've tried to build a very versatile tool with ways, with pieces and components that allow you to adapt it for the setup and the job that you're working on, but also with different grippers so that you can pick different materials. And we now have a whole line of grippers that quickly connect and attach. They'll allow you to pick really almost any masonry material, as I think we'll show a picture here in the future with some of the other materials out there. So.
Jacob, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, as far as solutions go, obviously we have this 8832 now. If we can get this thing to kind of gain traction, get the architects to bite in, the engineers, the general contractors, and also our membership, we've got options to remove slots. We've got options to go wider with the block for gymnasiums and tackle some of those other areas where we've seen disruption in our market share to tilt up in precast. Even I see this as an opportunity down the road for challenges that we face with losing sound wall technology and things like that around our market to precast panels. So I really see the use of the Mule and these longer lineal bigger blocks as an option to keep us relevant and move us forward with continued growth and market share.
Thanks, Jacob. Todd, anything to?
Yeah, you bet.
Can you hang on for just 1 second?
Sure.
We have a question for Scott from Ken Adent of ASCO Construction. He'd like to know, does the Mule fall under the same requirements as a crane as far as OSHA goes?
Yeah, it does not. I think that it's a little bit, so this type of device, this personal smart lifting device is it's new in the construction industry, right? There's not a strong precedent out there. Obviously, cranes have been around for a very long time, designed to lift very heavy loads with operators and very specific requirements. This smart lifting device, this type of technology has been used in manufacturing for a lot of years, but does fall under different rules and regulations because of the lighter load, because of the interaction between the worker and the machine itself. So it does fall. It's not covered under standard crane requirements, but obviously we still have training courses, and it's important that the people that work with the Mule are trained, that understand the setup, the operation, and all the necessary requirements for safe setup and operation of the equipment.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so getting back to the solution side from our standpoint, the construction industry, maybe the masonry industry in particular, is agonizingly slow to change. And we've been laying brick, block, and stone for the same way for, I could almost be a little ridiculous and say 100 years. And so when the change does come along like this, the 32-inch block and the Mule, we don't want to miss this one. I believe that this is the perfect combination of equipment and materials to really address the challenges that we mentioned of, potentially attracting the youth, because there's a computerized side to it, regaining market share because we'll be faster and we can meet these crazy schedules that we'll talk about here coming up. And so I really believe that that this has fantastic potential to better our industry. We're going to provide better working conditions for our team members. Instead of lifting 12-inch block or 32s,
all day long. Gosh, you got this lift, Mule assist lift, which works wonderfully. And these guys are going to go home feeling pretty good and working smart instead of hard. The other solution this is going to provide mind is meeting the ever tightening schedule. So we did a job and got this MOB about 6 months ago. They submitted the plans and specs to the building department. And of course, what happened? 5 months worth of delays. And so when they do get the building permit, all the mason contractors on the line, we all been in this boat. What do? They say, okay, guys, now we got to make up that 5-month delay. And so what they came to us with on this particular job we've got, there's 7,000 block on this job and they wanted it done in 10 days. And, you know, your first reaction was, oh my gosh, that's impossible. You're talking 10-hour days, you're talking Saturdays. But now we have an option. Instead of saying no and get bent out of shape, I've got this option where I sat at the table and I said, okay, well, if you're going to throw a 10-day schedule at us, how about you guys look at changing to us providing this 32-inch block that Basalite is using and using this Mule lift assist that Construction Robotics has happened. And I might just be able to achieve this crazy schedule you're kind of throwing at us. So I think we got all kinds of opportunity on the schedule side to really better our industry.
Fantastic all around. Thank you very much. Do any of you guys want to touch on the image here that shows the combination of innovation and collaboration between material and equipment?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on this first. Yeah, so this again is this shows one of the other use cases of the Mule. So this here is a installation of a veneer stone with a gripper that, you know, plug and play with the current Mule. It's a standard Mule product that you add a new gripper to and pull a pin, put the new gripper in, plug it in, recalibrate the tool weight, which takes a few seconds, and you're off to the races. And so with a product like this is probably about an 90 pound piece of stone. And typically, I think for this contractor was a 2-man lift, allow them to spread out and utilize their workforce in a different fashion to execute the project and set them up so they were picking and placing stone. And I think it was a great success. So, I think it shows for us some of the versatility in what we're trying to create, which is this flexible tool that's utilized on lots of different projects for the mason contractor. And Todd or Jacob, feel free to jump in if you want to talk a little bit about stone or some of the other applications there.
I mean, I think this image is great, and it speaks to, what the architects want. I know every producer on the call, every mason on the call has all had projects come along where there are these large, robust piece of masonry units, whether that be block, cast stone, precast, that these architects draw up and we look at it and go, this is crazy. How are we going to do this? And a lot of times we work ourselves out of the wall, by challenging these designs. And I think with these types of tools and collaboration, we can come to bringing this type of system, these large format pieces, to the wall efficiently and cost effectively and profitably for the masons in order to keep us on the wall instead of fighting the challenging designs. We'll be able to embrace them.
Great. Anything, Todd, before I move on?
It really is exciting. Construction Robotics is so progressive on this, and Basalite, of course, but it's not just a block assist deal. Here we are, with a lot of us know Ariscraft, 110 pounds a piece, something like that. And it's just super exciting that it's not just limited to the block industry. All of a sudden this is a contributor to the masonry industry.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And Kim, any participant questions that we should address before we go on to topic 3?
No.
All right.
Actually,
There, yeah.
Umbreen.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a question from Calvin Jenkins at Glover Masonry. This question is for Scott. How do you raise the mast of the Mule, and what is the maximum height?
Yeah, so the Mule itself, I don't know if you're able to go back to the previous picture there on Breen, but the Mule itself there's multiple components to the Mule. The arm is a component itself that bolts together with the fork pockets below it, which bolts with the mast below that, and then it has a ground base, which is what has the counterweight and allows you to level it up. All those components are interchangeable and bolt together. So typically when it shows up on a job site, you try to have it set up ready to go for the application, whether it's a ground setup or a scaffold setup, so that you can just quickly go from truck to your application and start running. As far as the masts go, the ground-based setup, you can freestand up to 22 feet tall, and you just insert mast sections. So if you pick the mule up in the fork pockets, lift it up, you can add mast below it, and then again leave it in that freestanding position, 22 feet tall. The cable travel on it is 11 feet, but we have cable extensions. So if you did have your mule set up 22 feet tall, you put a cable extension in there, and you'd be able to run your first 11 feet, take out the cable extension, and then run the next 11 feet. So that's roughly what that operation looks like. A lot of times when you're dealing with taller walls, you're going to integrate the mule with your scaffold system. And we can walk through a lot of the details of that. Again, our dealers will work through training and implementation, even pre-planning. I think a lot of times where contractors are uneasy or maybe just don't understand how the mule can be implemented or aren't sure what the right type of job is, that's part of the process that we can walk through where, if you reach out to us or our dealers, we can look at projects, we can do layouts, we can explore how to best utilize the mules in a fashion that makes a ton of sense.
Thank you, Scott. We have another question from Jason Kreppen. And the question is, how difficult is the mule deployment on irregular surfaces?
Yeah, another great question. So again, there's a number of different ways that you can deploy the mule, and the thing I love is that a lot of our contractors show us new ways all the time. So there's a lot of, obviously the contractors are super innovative, and the foremen out there always come up with creative ways to use the mule. But the legs themselves, the jacks themselves can be put, they can be extended, and you can level up on a pretty rough surface. Again, oftentimes if you're doing like foundation work, we did a job recently where they had excavated around the foundation. They were laying foundation block, 16-inch foundation block around rebar, and so they set the mule a little far back from the wall. The mule has a 12-foot arm, so it's got about a 20-foot reach on a wall when it's up close. Obviously, as you move that back further, you might only have a 10-foot reach or so, but they were in a position in that case where they could easily use the fork truck to pick the mule and move it pretty quickly and easily. It's just pick it, set it, make sure it's level, and you're ready to go again. So it's pretty easy to interact with.
Anything else, ladies or participants? Going once, going twice. On to question 3 we go. And you'll have a chance to continue to ask questions throughout. So if there's anything that pops to your mind, just keep shooting it over in the chat. So the third topic is related to the idea of, it's easy to offer new toys and new building blocks, but do we really know what it takes on the job? Do we really understand from your perspective, from being in your shoes and with your trowels? So, Jacob, you want to get this one started?
I'll talk about it from a material standpoint. I think some of the challenges, the adoptions of this that's going to be a little challenging is getting people to understand that, these things are readily available. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to make the wheel spin a little bit faster. We also need to, make sure that folks understand the benefits, from a timeline standpoint on the schedule of their project. And also in returning our submittals promptly, so that way we can continue to move forward with the project like Todd had mentioned earlier. Additionally, from a material standpoint, we're, as an organization, as Basalite, we're looking at it as offering this particular product in all of the same great textures, with the exception of split face at this time, that we do in the market. So we're not going to be limiting the architects and really kind of strong arming them into only one thing. We're going to continue to give them the variety that they're used to seeing from the system and the products that we make in this market. And then we're obviously, with the innovation at our facility in Fort Lupton, we're seeing an increased capacity with how fast we can put these things out. So I think the adoption of these innovations, we're going to have some small hurdles, but once the design community and our masonry contractors within our group, see, how well these things are going to come out in the wall, and watch our promotion become adoption in the market and moving forward, I think we're going to see things become really easy to utilize things like the mules and the 32-inch block.
Scott, you want to jump in?
Well, I'm happy to jump in. I actually wanted to throw something back at Jacob if I can, though. I think in other markets we've seen the value engineering and the adoption and the push by the mason contractor to drive the change to 32-inch block. Do you see, where do you see that strongest push and or resistance coming from with regards to whether it's the contractor or the architects? Because obviously the architects, hopefully we get them to specify, but hopefully the masons can flip projects that are already designed a certain way to 32. So how do you see those two dynamics playing out?
I think the architects, to start with them, I think they'll be excited. I mean, I think if we pull the slot out of these things and start doing some 32-inch long stack bond stair cores that are ground face on both sides, I think that's going to be a fast adoption. I think there's going to be very little, if any, pushback at all from the architects. I think our biggest hurdle will be, teaching an old dog a new trick. Let's figure out how we can get our mason contractors to get on board and move forward, because let's face it, we're all busy. It's hard to stop and try to figure out something new. Let's just get it done the way we know how. I think we need to put that mentality and that attitude to the side as a market and as a group, of masonry, professionals and contractors, and bite the bullet and just get in with the innovation and move forward. Because I think, like I mentioned earlier, instead of fighting ourselves off the wall, we often do that. We need to adapt and move forward with this technology as fast as possible. And I think, the first few people that do it are going to really see the fruits faster than everybody else. And I think it's going to be a freight train of everybody moving forward with it. But we got to start, and that's where I encourage our membership, and especially the masonry contractors. Take a hard look at this technology, this material, and see what you can do to adopt it into your business. And I think you're going to be very happy with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think in other markets, we've seen the transition from a contractor's perspective to transition from 16 to to 32-inch block, and I'll share a little bit of my insights, but then I'd love to hear from Todd on your experience in that process as you walk down through it. But I think that when you look at the challenges from an adoption standpoint, I think you're right on, and you talk about moving fast. I mean, I think we see this around the country where the contractors are moving fast, and it's always hard to pause and to try to change something, especially not just always at the owner level, but at the foreman level, and even the guys in the field. There's an intimidation factor that comes with new technology, with doing something different. For a foreman, they're trying to get the job done and manage schedule, manage budget, and to put something new on their plate can oftentimes be intimidating, scary. And it's the easy answer is, I just will do it the way I know how because I'm comfortable. And so that's where I think we really, we try to focus on training, on education, but we also really encourage the contractors to, be open, understand that it's not going to happen overnight, and that you got to take time, and it is an evolutionary thing. The first project you're going to learn, but as long as you evolve from that first project and you apply those learnings, then you will continue to get better. It's the same with anything new that's come into the industry, whether it is a mast climber or any other new materials or processes that have come into the industry in the past. I think you got to be willing to be open to try it, but then stick with it and learn from it so that you can keep evolving from it. So I think that's some of the challenges and really what we try to encourage, and we try to make that easy through our dealers, through our own training programs. We try to make that process as easy as possible. We're here, we see ourselves as a partner. It's definitely not something that we expect contractors to just get the equipment and be off on their own running with it. We want to be right there helping. So I'll pass it along to you, Todd, because I'd like to hear a little bit about your experience with the 16 to 32-inch conversion and what some of the challenges might be there, and then any other insights you might have.
You bet. Yeah, from a mason contractor standpoint, the primary challenge initially, I'm going to say, is it requires some investment to invest in these mules, and anything in life requires some sort of investment, and it just you got to look for the benefit in it. You got to be able to take advantage of that. And so this is a worthwhile investment in my mind. I'm sitting here telling you this, and I think Jacob said it, and even Scott repeated it. Old dog, new tricks. Boy, I tell you what, in the masonry industry, how many times you walked out on the job, mason contractors, I'm talking to you, and told your foreman to, do it a different way, or the architect's asking us to lay out the bond in a different manner. And what's the first thing to say? We've always done it this way. We've always done it that way. It's always worked in the past. And so we need buy-in from your leadership and from a core group of guys on this whole process. And once we do, I think it's going to just pay off in spades. The other thing is, we are so busy lighting our hair on fire and running around in circles trying to meet these crazy schedules that these GCs are thinking up and owners are thinking up. We've got to take time for training. You just have to do it. If it's not going to benefit your investment at all if you don't do the training on this. It doesn't take a lot of training. It's not brain surgery. These things aren't, but it does. It's a little different way of thinking. And so it requires that. The other thing is educating the design and GC community. On this job that I mentioned, this MOB that we're doing, that they want it done in 10 days. When I mentioned to them, hey, we've got a potential go to a 32-inch block and use these Mule lift assists, they're like, whoa, new product. We don't want to try that on our job. And I had to turn around and say, look, this isn't a new product. It's a new size of product. The mix design is the exact same. The PSI is the same, because their initial concern was, has it been tested? We don't want to be the guinea pig. And so there is, even though this seems very basic, that it's a 32-inch block instead of a 16-inch block, I believe the design community has to be educated a little bit on, hey, this is the same mix design. It's the same product. We're just going to get a more linear look. We're going to cover more square footage with the same amount of movements here during the course of the day. And then the GC community that, hey, this is going to alleviate schedules. So I really think those are the primary challenges of getting this thing adopted for a mason contractor.
Todd, I have a question for you. You all work on a lot of urban, very tight job sites. Is there any resistance to bringing on another large piece of equipment to your site?
You know what, Ann, I don't see that this falling into that category of a large piece of equipment. It really, in the ways that we've used the mules right now, they never touch the ground. We set them on our hydromobile and they go up with us. And so it's really, you just get all the benefit of covering more square footage with each movement versus taking up more space on the job site.
Ah, fantastic. And Umberine, if you don't mind, we received a question for Jacob from Bill Phillips with Phillips Industrial. He would like to know, is the pricing for the 32-inch block at a premium above and beyond that you would pay for two 16-inch blocks, or is it on a par?
It's a slight increase just due to scrap rates when we're manufacturing. That way we're trying to minimize stuff before it gets to the job site, but a very small premium.
Presumably made up for by the savings in labor, more than made up for.
Correct. It's very similar, Bill, if you have experience with going from a modular brick to a oversized brick veneer, 4412, 4416, you make up a little bit in your material costs in your labor side.
Hey, I know we have a bunch of folks from the brick industry on here, particularly Interstate Brick, which makes a big oversized brick. And I'm just wondering if maybe Scott could address whether or not this is a tool for that oversized brick part of the industry.
Yeah, I think, for the Mule, we look at it as a tool for really lifting anything. I mean, we focused on the masonry and the block industry because I think it's a perfect application, and we've seen great success with our contractors for lifting and installing block. But again, it's a tool that handles up to 150 pounds. We have vacuum grippers that we've utilized for some certain types of specialized brick installations. We have other grippers for retaining wall type work. We showed the veneer gripper for veneer stone, and we've lifted concrete form panels. We've lifted all sorts of different products with it, and so again, it's a versatile piece of equipment. Again, most success we've seen is with the masons, and I think it's a perfect fit for the masons because it is such a physically demanding trade. But again, if people have applications where they're looking to lift up to that 150-pound range, and I think that's exactly what we want to do. And really, even down the road, I think that our technology, our core technology of smart lifting will expand as far as larger capacities, larger sizes. And so there's a lot of flexibility there. We're happy to talk to people about their application and their needs. We've even seen people lifting multiple blocks with it, just with a specialized gripper with the same mule. So a lot of options and a lot of flexibility. And I think if there is oversized bricks or materials that need either movement within the plant or even on-site movement or installation, that's what this tool is designed for. High precision and high speed.
Great. And Todd, we have a question for you from Ken. Do you see the wage of the masons being reduced?
Interesting question. So no, I'll give you a little story here on our next segment on how we got our guys to buy off on this, but we're actually offering our guys who wanted to get certified mule operators, Berich Masonry certified, more money to take on this because they had to go through a training program and such. So I don't see this reducing at all, and I would border on a collusion here is we can't let wages go down. We are going to ruin our industry.
Good. And then I also have a question from Barry Lancaster. I assume you can only have one mule per person. How many can you fit on a hydromobile? Seems like it could be a logistic issue spacing everyone out on the platform. So Scott, if you could talk to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I can speak from my perspective, and then of course Todd can feel free to jump in as well. But for us, we typically see mules spaced out about every 20 to 24 feet on a hydromobile scaffold or a mast climber, depending on what scaffold system you're going to utilize. As far as the number of mules per mason, that is dependent on the contractor. We've seen some contractors that'll put 2 masons per mule and a laborer. Some will put 1 per mule. Some will put more. And so the process can be a little bit different, right? So in the videos you've seen in the background here, a mason is picking the block, they're installing that block, they're then striking and mortaring the walls. We have seen other contractors take different approaches, right? So we've seen some that they'll have one mason that's just picking and placing block and another person following behind that's striking and or applying the mortar. And we've seen, even other variants of that. So I think that from our perspective, we want to provide the equipment and we want to train and educate so that people like this gentleman in the video here gets comfortable with the technology, right? That's our goal, is we want him to be comfortable with it so that he knows how to best utilize it for him. But ultimately within a contractor's team, there are different ways we've seen it deployed. And I think we encourage people to figure out what's the best approach for their team, for their job site, for their application. And in some cases, it can be more than 1 person per mule.
So yeah, that's a great question, Barry. We've tried various different setups. We've tried to set up with an apprentice and a bricklayer, just doing this, no HUD care at all. And the apprentice grabs the thing, puts the head joints on it, and then a journeyman bricklayer just installs them. And so it's a pretty efficient method, but your apprentice gets a little practice throwing mortar joints. We've also done, and it kind of depends on your setup of whether you're building stair and elevator cores or like a Walmart. But we've also done the fact where 1 HUD care takes care of 2 masons. So you load the mule up, you set it, it has 0 gravity, obviously, as you're seeing in the video there, and he can set it right where the bricklayer on the right is. Then he goes over and gets the gripper on another block and puts it to the left. And by that time, he's ready to go to the right. So there's several different setups that you can do with this, and none of them are wrong. And what we found really is what your foreman will buy off on.
So I appreciate all of that perspective and the challenges. Some of the key takeaways that I've heard is that, number one, your workforce is going to change. And I think it is, what I'm hearing from all of you is that it is your desire to improve things and make them better and make them richer and bring more diversity and make it easier for, a wider range of people to come in, younger, different body structures, whatever it is. So there is no intention for this to be just cost cutting. I think cost savings and cost cutting can be perceived very differently. And I think what I'm hearing is definitely cost savings opportunity for more profitability. Time will tell and you guys will all get there, but it's great to hear that. And the other great takeaway I think I've heard is that, customizability. I mean, Scott, you're just not saying it's one thing. And so pick up the phone, have a conversation with Scott, talk to these guys about the kind of materials that could enhance what you're doing on the job. But, these mules are appearing to be highly adaptable, even if you're just swapping out, the grippers and things like that. So, hopefully this is the start of a lot of great conversations and inquiries that you can just start to scratch the surface of what's possible. So I'm going to jump on to the next topic unless there are any other questions. Kim, Ann, anybody? So the last question here is key lessons learned, and what have you heard or what have you experienced in terms of success stories? I heard it loud and clear, and Todd, I didn't pay you to say what you said earlier, but the thought here was training of your employees beforehand, training of the people who are speccing the job, training of the people who are going to do the job, training of the people who are designing the facilities. All of this, comes back to sort of one word that just can be executed so many different ways, but it's really foundationally critical. So besides training, because I think you guys might have covered that already, what other lessons learned or key success stories can you share in, about 5 minutes between the three of you?
Well, you're going to say what other ones, but let me give you our lesson learned at Berich Masonry. We're not perfect. We're progressive because we're involved in this, but we're not perfect. We bought these things about 1.5 years ago, and we did no formal training, and we had success, but it was limited. So we kind of analyzed this thing, and we got together with one of the engineers at Construction Robotics, Mike Oklovich, great guy, and said, Mike, what are we doing wrong? And he says, Todd, I think we need to do a formal training program. And so we got together with Mike, and Mike flew Mike out here. Mike came out here and put a program together that addressed setup, operation, troubleshooting, and then demobilization for the mules. And we sent out a request for applicants in our company to say, hey, we want certified mule operators, Berich Masonry certified mule operators. And so we got several applications. We whittled those down to 4, and we sent these 4 guys through this training program. And at the end of it, I hit up Alex, who is one of the guys you'll see here on the video. And I said, okay, Alex, he's one of our apprentices. He's right there. And I said, okay, Alex, what did you learn? Was this good? He said, Todd, this is fantastic. I feel like I've got a total grip on these things. I feel like I can troubleshoot. I feel like I can be a better bricklayer with this. And I said, okay, anything else? And he said, yes, I can see this doing my laying block my whole career and retiring happy and healthy. So I was like, wow, winner, winner right there. The other unexpected benefit that we saw was from the other end of the story, which I didn't even expect. We have a 69-year-old bricklayer working for us. And Chuck has worked for us on and off for years. And I showed Chuck the mules, and Chuck said, not only no, but you know what, no. And so I said, Chuck, give it a chance. Come on, give it a chance. And so we threw Chuck out there. And after about 5 days, I said, Chuck, what's the story? What's the analysis? What's the final number here? And he said, Todd, this thing is going to extend my career another year. And so I was like, wow, unexpected benefit for Berich Masonry. We got to hold on to some of the old guard who can teach the new guys, the youth that we're trying to bring into this industry. So it's a winner on both sides for us. So, yeah, that's kind of our lesson learned at Berich Masonry.
Fantastic. Scott, I know you got a ton.
Yeah, no, I want to jump in, and obviously I love hearing the stories from Todd. I think that's really, that's why we developed the equipment. That's what it's all about for us, is I think that getting the people in the field, the masons that are out there living this every day, living and breathing this every day, to a point of understanding what this can do for them and getting comfortable with it is really what it's all about. I think that, for us, a group of engineers that develop a really great piece of technology, that's all fun and good, but at the end of the day, it doesn't do any benefit for anybody and people in the industry if the people that are using it aren't comfortable with it. And we've seen this on job sites, throughout the country, where if there's not the right training or the right level of comfort, or you get on a job and we don't take the time to set it up and to get people comfortable with it from the beginning, people are just kind of thrown into it, that it can be intimidating, it can be challenging. And we've learned a lot from that in the beginning, and I think we've gotten a lot better at making sure that we have the right training program, that we engage the team in the right level. And I think that, I could share a number of success stories around the country that are similar. I think we've, and I won't go too far into the details, but I think a couple that come to mind. I mean, we've worked with, I was on one job site and I had a mason who came up to us and was talking to me and my co-founder about the Mule, and he said, "You guys developed this?" And we said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I just want to thank you because I've been, I retired from masonry 2 years ago because I had a shoulder injury, haven't laid block in 2 or 3 years." And he said they were needing workers so bad that I came out of retirement to work on this job, and it's close to my house. And he's like, "It's great. I'm laying block like I'm 25 years old again, and it doesn't hurt, and I love it." And he's like, "Thanks for developing it. Wish we had it 20 years ago, but he says it's great." And so I think that we hear those stories, and I think that it's really, for us, it's great when we get the light bulb moment, and a lot of times that comes with training and taking the moment in a non-pressure environment to learn. And I really commend Todd and the Berich team for what they've done to take that time, offsite to really learn, get the guys comfortable with it, so that when it does come time to produce, which is, when you step foot on that job site with the mules, that they're not trying to learn new technology and produce at a high level, that they can just say, "Hey, you know what, the mule's second nature to me. I'm just going to start putting block in the wall 2 for 1, it's 2 block for every motion of that wall," and really increase productivity. And we've seen some great productivity success stories, and obviously, want to continue to see that with this market out in Colorado and the 32-inch block. So I think that's some of our some of our lessons learned and success stories. I think we can go on and on, talk about different projects and experiences around the country, but I want to kind of pause there. I'll turn it over, see if Jacob has anything he wants to add.
No, thanks, Scott. For us, I think our success stories are just getting started. It's going to be a very interesting time as we move forward, as we see our market, adapt to the new technology with the mules and with the block. And for me, Scott, I think it'll be fun for you and I and Todd to, sit down in a year and see where we really get, because I think we're going some really cool places.
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. So we're about to wrap. Go ahead.
Question. I'm so sorry. And I'd like all 3 of you to kind of address this. Scott, you've seen this Mule in action all over the country for a lot longer than we've had it here in Colorado. What do you think are the best job types, project types, where the Mule is the most efficient, providing the greatest ROI?
That is a great question. And I think that what I will tell you is that I'm not sure. I mean, I guess let me answer it 2 ways, right? The first way is that I think we're at the surface. We're just scratching the surface of how to best answer that question, because the reality is that contractors are pushing the envelope every day for the different jobs that they put it on. We've had mules on residential jobs, and then we've had successes. We've had mules on small little, we had a job where they were laying 16-inch foundation block 4 courses high, and it was a success. We've been on jobs where, where it's 80,000 block on the whole structure of a 5-story building, and it's been successful. And so, we've been on very large, very small projects. I would say the biggest thing, more than the type of project is really the approach of getting going, right? Make sure you're training, make sure you get comfortable with it, make sure you have a game plan and an approach. And then small projects can be successful, or large projects can be successful. I think the obvious answer is when you look at a project where you've got money walls, where you've got a lot of square footage and you don't have windows, constantly breaking up the wall, it makes it a lot easier to adopt a 32-inch block and see the true benefit of something like that. But that doesn't mean that you can't have success where you use 32-inch block on half a project and regular 16s on the other, and use mules on certain projects, but not, or certain aspects of a project, but not on others. And obviously, elevators, stairs, and I think those are great applications for where the Mule can help and where 32-inch block can help as well. So, I would say we're happy to look at projects with you. We're happy to talk about them. But what I would encourage is it's more about the approach, the mindset, the attitude, and your game plan and how you're going to attack it than just the type of project.
Thank you. Jacob, when you answer this question, would you also address Josh Cronholm's question, which is, are the 32-inch long units only available in an 8-inch width?
Sure. I'll start off with Josh's question. Josh, right now we've got the capacity, the ability to do the 8.832. As the market expands and grows with the adoption of the mules, We are looking at the 12-inch version for gymnasiums, other big box stores, stuff like that as well. So that innovation is going to come down the road. Just waiting to see a little bit more buy-in in the market. So jump online with Scott and his team and give Todd a run for his money when you order 4 or 5 of these things. I look at the best, if I gravitate back to your question, and the best ROI for and what type of project do these fall on, and to me it's the best project is the one we weren't going to be on in the first place. The job that was going to be tilt up, that they went, hey, maybe the municipality said, we don't want a painted building, we want a integrally colored building, and we go up against an acid washed precast panel with a ground face version of the 32-inch block. To me, that's going to be the biggest bang for a buck, is watching those jobs walk into everybody's life and their businesses and say, hey, we wouldn't have got this one. I saw a job on LinkedIn the other day that is it's a retail kind of garage storage building that was tilt up concrete that was getting painted. And I'm like, that's a great opportunity for us. That's somewhere we should be. And to me, that's going to be where I think the membership, the mason contractors in our membership really find the biggest ROI is landing on a job that wouldn't have been there.
Cool. Todd?
As far as ROI, we don't have a whole lot of experience on, I'm going to say, more of a Walmart type job. We've really been focused on these stair cores and elevator shafts, and they are just wonderful for this. We've got 3 of these things in our arsenal, and we haven't found a stair core that this didn't work on. I think they're just phenomenal for that. You do get a few head turns from the GC. They go out to do their manual count. They say 1, 2, 3 bricklayers. Wait a minute, you aren't going to meet schedule, and we just have to say holster your pistol. We'll get there. So I really think this can be adapted to any project. We have just found right now, because it's what we've done, is stair and elevator cores are right up this alley.
And those were some really great questions, and I appreciate you tossing those out to the guys. Is there anything else from the participants that we would like to have them answer before we wrap up?
I don't see anything on the chat box yet, but if anybody wants to type in a question, maybe Umbreen, you can give some closing remarks, and we'll see.
Yeah. So this has been very helpful. I hope it has been very helpful for you all who are participating. There have been some very good questions. I think all of the panelists have shared very high level, but good information that will tease more inquiries and more deeper conversations. So I'd like to just give the panelists an opportunity, if there is any last thing that they'd like to share with you that hasn't been shared yet. And if you all have any questions in the meantime, to jot those into the chat really quickly. And then guys, Todd, Scott, Jacob, anything that's just burning? Otherwise, I'll jump to the next slide.
My one takeaway, I hope, for everybody on here is that we have a potential to better our industry here, and we need to get buy-in from all of us mason contractors to do this. I believe we have the potential to attract and retain the younger kids, keep the older guys around, and provide this and meet the need of the owners and general contractors with these insane schedules, and also regain market share. So we need to do this as an industry. This isn't a Berich Masonry deal. This is a Rocky Mountain Masonry. This is a Colorado deal. For Scott, it's more nationwide, and for Jacob it is. But we gotta get back our market share that we're losing. And so I see this as an industry. So let's get involved, guys.
I think it's a great call to action, Todd. And I guess I'd throw a couple things out there. They say never waste a crisis. And right now, you have higher lumber prices, higher steel prices. You've got challenges out there. Precast lead times are really long. And to me, this is the exact opportunity for the masonry industry to strike. The iron's hot, the opportunities in front of us. And if we can leverage technology, leverage a little bit of different mindset, take advantage of an oversized unit, and try to win back that market share. I think there's a great opportunity. We've seen it in other markets. We've seen other markets that have actually flipped precast projects because of lead time to masonry block walls. And I think it's awesome to see that. And I think that, we can do the same thing in the Colorado market. So I would say that's a huge takeaway for us. And then the last thing I'd leave with is, is, give it a try. I think that our team has seen a lot of implementations. We've trained a lot of people around the country. We've seen continued growth and adoption of the technology, but we're here as a partner to help de-risk and make sure that, between us and our dealers, that we can de-risk the contractors and help with successful implementation. So, I would say the biggest thing I hear from around the country is, yeah, it's a really cool technology, but when I get the right project, thinking, okay, when I get the giant, Walmart facility with 100,000 12-inch CMU, split face CMU on it, then I'll give it a try. But the reality is that you don't want to wait till you get that project. You want to try it when you want to try it now, so that you can learn, you can evolve, you can improve, so that when you do get those bigger projects, when those opportunities come along to flip a school to a 32-inch block, you're ready. You have the experience, you have the technology, you have the team, and you're ready to really go after those and win. And so hopefully, as an industry, in this market, we can come together, we can win back market share and see continued growth and bring some new exciting young people in the industry.
All right, Jacob, you got 10 seconds. I got 2 more minutes worth of stuff we got to get through.
No, I just real quick, I'll add on to what Todd said, and the buy-in is something that I would like to see with the rest of the market. We bought in heavily at Basalite to partner up with the market, not only with Todd, but the rest of the market. So I just like to see everybody else jump on board.
Awesome. Really great brief and poignant. So everyone, turn up your volume. Unfortunately, this plays really softly, but here are some great words from guys that are doing the work.
Todd Berich with Berich Masonry, and I'm really proud to be here today to be able to partner with 2 people in the industry, really 3, I guess I would say, that are pioneering some major changes in the masonry industry. One of them is the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute for bringing this all together. But number 2 is Basalite concrete products are being so progressive in making this 32-inch long block. And third is Construction Robotics, who is making the robotics arm, which makes this all feasible. And so when we bring all 3 of these together, it's going to be life-changing for our industry. It's going to bring the owners a better, faster, safer product, and the architects and designers will be able to get exactly what they want as well. So I'm really proud to be a part of this movement in our industry right now.
My name is Alex Grandin, and I've been working with Berich Masonry here in Denver, Colorado for the past 3 years. What originally got me into the construction industry is just the opportunity to be outside all day. I like to work with my hands, and now it's really exciting working with Construction Robotics and the Mule. I'm not trying to fight the machine. It's not laying the block for me. It's just assisting me. This is going to bring us into the future. So it's an exciting time to be in the trade.
So I can't say it any better than that. I think these guys had some really, really specific points, good call to actions in the last slide. I'm going to call that a wrap and tell you that we have 4 people to thank, the 3 panelists, and for sure the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute for hosting this webinar. Hopefully you have found it helpful, insightful, and mostly I hope you have found it intriguing enough to pick up the phone and call one of these 3 folks, if not the Rocky Mountain Masonry Institute. And best of luck to all of you with all you have on your plates. Thank you all for your participation today, and we will look forward to being in touch again soon.
Umbreen,
have a great afternoon. Yeah.
We actually have another quick question, and that is, what is the lead time for procuring a mule?
Yeah, so we do have dealers that have mules in stock around the country, and so if there's not any locally, we can work with partner dealers that are regionally or close by to make sure mules are available for rental or purchase. So typically we can find some that are readily available. New mules are a little bit longer lead times, but happy to talk through that specifically, with your inquiry.
Thank you, Scott. And Umbreen, thank you for keeping all of us corralled and on track. That was great.
My pleasure. And the last thing I'll say, Anne, if you just remind everybody about the recording before we hang up.
We will send everybody a copy of this recording so that if you weren't able to listen to the entire thing, or you have people in your office who really need to learn about this, you'll be able to share it with them. And if there were some folks who registered today and were unable to join us, they will also receive the recording. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Have a great afternoon.